Leadership comes with high expectations, too many responsibilities, too little time, and the constant pressure to keep up. If you're feeling stretched thin, you're not alone. At Engineer Your Success, we help leaders take back control so that they can lead with confidence, delegate effectively, and stop running on empty. You don't have to choose between success and sanity. Let's build a leadership plan that works for you. Visit engineeryoursuccessnow.com today, because thriving isn't just for others, it's for you.
Success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about living a life that reflects your values and priorities. Welcome to Engineer Your Success, the podcast that helps you lead with intention and live fulfilled.
Welcome to the Engineer Your Success podcast. My name is Dr. James Bryant, your host and your guide to designing and living a life where you are winning at work and at home. We have a guest today that really believes that engineering doesn't have to be stagnant. It doesn't have to be dry. It can be fun. You can actually have fun and enjoy what you do. Today, we have Daniel McCaulley. He is the founder of Ultimus Engineering, a multidisciplinary firm built on a simple but uncommon belief. Engineers can deliver technical excellence and build genuine relationships. He's a former athlete turned engineer turned business owner. Daniel shares what it really looks like to build a firm from scratch, to lead people well, and to create work that lasts without losing yourself in the process. Okay, let's dive in. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, James. I appreciate it. Lots to uncover here. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about it. And yeah, let's show that engineers can be real people too.
I often like to say, to let people in on a secret, and I'll say, hey, I'm gonna tell you a secret. And they're like, what? And I'm like, engineers are people too. So I love that common thread. And so I just want to dive right in. So you've described yourself as a super nerd athlete. So where did that competitive drive come from? And just where did that term, how did you come up with that term for yourself?
Not a common mix of character traits, I'll give you that. It really started back 30 years ago, call it at this point. I was one of those kids that my mom couldn't get out of the house enough. If there was an application for it, my name was on it. And it didn't matter if it was sports related, that was certainly a big part of it. But it was science camp, and it was Boy Scouts, and it was anything under the sun. She just wanted me to have exposure to a little bit of everything. And I think that at a larger scale really lended itself to me being well-rounded and able to work with different people and different ideas, different scopes of industry. But a big piece of it, really the formative part, was the heavy focus on the athletics. I remember vividly changing uniforms in the back of her Ford Taurus on a number of Saturdays, going from a baseball game to a soccer game to a football game all in one day. I think the most sports I ever did in 1 year was 8, if I counted them up right at one point. I think there's kind of that calendar schedule where they say that in any given calendar year, the only 2 days without professional sports is the day before and after the All-Star break in baseball. And that's kind of how I seemed like I lived my life as a young kid and growing into my teenage years. So as I grew along, I didn't maintain 8 sports every year forever. Those kind of fell off. I got into high school, I narrowed it down to football and track. I knew that I was going to go to college to play football, but I didn't really know what I wanted to study, right? You had that student athlete blend, or where's the student piece of it come in? And over time, I realized that I was pretty good at math and science, just kind of came naturally to me. Testing came easy. I'm very blessed. I feel like I'm gifted academically, that I pick up things quickly. But where did I want to take that, right? And so in the spirit of competition, the spirit of let's win something, let's have a goal that's achievable, I thought, well, why not just pick the hardest degree I can think of? And so that was either going to be med school or engineering. Discovered that it takes 15 years to be a heart surgeon. So, okay, well, maybe that's the fallback. And so engineering just kind of seemed like a good fit based on my interests and skill sets. And then it's really kind of where the nerdy piece of it picked up. And I developed that education from there.
Okay. No, that's great. So when you think about your trajectory to that point, right? The going to different sporting events or participating in different sports as a kid, how did that mindset, or the mindset that you were developing, how did it carry into engineering? And did it help you, or did it work against you?
I think it helped me. Engineers don't often engineer in a vacuum, right? As engineers, we're not given a project and say, hey, here's the general scope. Now produce something that works. And it doesn't matter if it's product design or what my firm does, which is heavily focused in the construction industry. There's always other design aspects, other engineers, project owners, clients. There's a variety of people we have to work with. And it's effectively a team, whether or not it's our internal team or the larger team, everybody that's responsible for that project. So I was involved with mostly team sports. Now, yes, I did track. Yes, I did a couple of things that were more specific to individuals, but the vast majority of what I did were team sports. So having that buy-in of it doesn't matter how good of a quarterback I am. If I don't have a receiver that can't catch, if we don't have a line that can't block, if we don't have a defense that can't prevent the other team from putting up points, well, me as an individual, I could be the best player on the team or in the league, and we still don't win. So relying on a team, doing things that are very team focused does tie in quite a bit to really anything, but certainly in engineering. And for me personally, having a heavy focus on competition, right? This was before the days of participation trophies, right? So Ricky Bobby said it best: if you're not first, you're last. And that was, I felt that way even before Talladega Nights. So it's just that early age of competition and drive and just the desire to win and be the best. That's been the driving force behind everything, not just the professional career, not just starting a business, but everything I do, I pour my heart and soul into it. If you're not going to do something 100%, don't do it. Spend your time, focus on something else. Do something you're going to be successful at. Yeah. So that's kind of where I go with that aspect.
I think that's really insightful. If you're not going to be first, you're last. I think that though taken to the extreme can create somewhat of a toxic mindset or a toxic environment. And so I would love to kind of hear your take on that. And I'm not judging, right? I'm just thinking if I take that to the extremes, and we know we don't live in the extremes, but if we take it to the extremes, it creates that kind of environment.
It does. And I know that about myself. And I have to consciously realize that there are times where I'm not going to be the best. And I know that. There's always someone better at everything. It doesn't matter how good you are. And if it's not today, it's tomorrow. Tom Brady, greatest quarterback ever play in the NFL. At some point, he wasn't the best. And then he became the best. And then now today, if he tried to play in the NFL, he may not be the caliber athlete he was a decade ago. So just realizing that over time, things change. But I think a lot of that, especially when you're talking professionally, is just encouragement to make sure we're always growing. We're always learning. Yeah. We're always trying to better ourselves. If you're staying the same, and this is kind of a nod to the athletic career too, somebody's getting better. So if you're not getting better with them, really in turn, you're falling behind. Even if you're maintaining that same athletic ability, someone else is getting better. So in the grand scheme of things, you're not. But to your point of, okay, well, how do you rein this in? And how do you not get lost in, I have to be the best, and if I fail, the world's over? There's some self-check there. And, I think a lot of that comes through, therapy sessions. I love having someone I can talk to professionally. My wife, she has wonderful perspectives on a lot of things I do. I have a really close friend group, but I also have friends who are professionals in fields of therapy and psychology. And having those people to talk to is not a sign of weakness. I know maybe we're kind of getting a little bit off topic here, but I'm a big proponent on talking to people in professional capacities. So having a therapist, whether it be in kind of the more classical sense or just having a really good sounding board, are ways that I can say something like, hey, I know my internal drive is to be the best. I understand because I don't live in a vacuum. I surround myself with people. You mentioned that I'm focused on building relationships. That's personally, professionally, otherwise. I know that there is truth that you can't be the best, but at least if I have a goal, then I'm working towards something. If my goal is, well, let's just be good, all right, well, that's relative. But if the goal is to be the best, it's that goofy kids adage, like you see it in books, right? Shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you land among the stars. It's like, that's silly, but there is truth to that. So let's have impossible goals. Let's have realistic goals, because we all like wins, right? So we have to have goals that are achievable. But let's have goals that are maybe not achievable, but it just raises the bar for myself and then raises the bar for the people that I try to surround myself with.
There's a lot to unpack there, and I don't think that we're getting off track at all. So we started this discussion, primarily talking about your athletic background. And then we begin to make the connection to, engineering, and did it help or hurt you? And one of the things you began to hone in on was teamwork, or you don't do these things in a vacuum, in that you are achieving these things with a team. So you may have gone into college with that mindset. You may have gone into engineering with that mindset, but regardless of how you started, I know where you are right now. And one of the things that plays into is, one of the keys of success is the environment that you put yourself in. And that includes the people that you are surrounding yourself with, people whom you can have those honest conversations, people who can be honest with you and give honest feedback that you can accept that feedback from.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Not only do we not work in a vacuum, we don't live in one. Engineers, and I think a lot of people that are very technically focused, can fall into that trap of, I'm just focused on this one technical aspect. Let me focus, leave me alone. And that's all good and well, right? A lot of the projects that we're responsible for have human life and safety components to them. So we don't
Yes.
want to miss, right? These are not things that we want to be distracted with. So there's certainly an aspect of, okay, let's block everything out, let's focus. But as I mentioned, at the end of the day, just because we're designing a building or a bridge, or even something as simple as like an electrical system, or hey, we're designing a plumbing system, water's got to run downhill. Like, those are all important aspects to keep in mind. But the point of having a team and having a strong support staff is absolutely critical. Again, whether it be personally or professionally, we have to realize that even getting out of our own comfort zone is important, because it allows us to grow and to develop. And I think people that are very technically focused, whether it be even attorneys, doctors, engineers, computer programmers, anybody that's in those very technical fields where we kind of get in the weeds, and you hear about bedside manner, that applies to everything, even outside of the medical industry. Forcing ourselves to get uncomfortable only allows us to grow in those areas. And so one of the things that I did early on in my professional career, I joined an organization called Toastmasters. And Toastmasters is a it's a public speaking, but it's also a leadership program. It's a global organization, certainly heavily focused. The main principle is on the development of public speaking skills, which is a fantastic skill to learn. But it also has a leadership and collaboration aspect to it. And the company that I was at, my first job out of college, I was working for Halliburton, global company, really well supported financially, great engineering program, all this stuff. Well, the location that I was at had a corporate chapter of Toastmasters. So getting plugged into that was really easy. We met every week. We had a great opportunity. There were 15 to 20 of us on any given week. And what Toastmasters taught me was, hey, you can be this super nerd, but if you really want to grow and you really want to expand your professional career, you need to be involved in aspects, and you need to hone these skills that are some of these soft skills. And so I would highly encourage anybody, technical, engineering, or otherwise, find programs like that. Again, I always love Toastmasters. I think it gives people a great opportunity. If it's Toastmasters, great. If it's something else, then so be it. But that's a really great program to try to get involved with.
Okay. No, I think that is great. And I was going to start asking you about what, some of the early parts of your career. You've talked about starting out, being involved in Toastmasters. What led up to you starting Ultimus Engineering?
Yeah. Well, a lot of that was when I got into college and I started to have more classes and meet more engineers. That was when I really got a taste of, hey, a lot of these engineers are not great communicators. Like, they were my friends. I would work on projects with them. But generally, if I was going to, in college, if I'm going out on a Friday night, I'm probably not calling my project partner from my engineering class. Just, they're not going to be your party buddy. And I was in a fraternity too, which kind of had its own evolution of what helped develop my personality. But I started to kind of get a taste of it there. And then when I joined Halliburton, I'm now exposed to a broad variety of corporate engineers. A lot of them shared similar personalities, which very focused and technical in their craft. But at the end of the day, maybe they're a little bit difficult to communicate with. Again, just not someone that you want to hang out with. And again, not that we all have to hang out and be best friends with the people we work with, but that was something I started to realize. Another aspect of it was just how companies interacted with their own engineers and then interacted with potential third party or outsourced engineers. There's this whole other business philosophy of, do we utilize engineers in-house? Do we find a third party? Do we maybe send engineering or technical support overseas? We can dive into that. But different people have different ways to do that. And I was afforded the opportunity to both work with and try to hire all of the above options, right? In-house,
Mm-hmm.
third party domestic, third party overseas. And eventually what I determined was it doesn't really matter if it's domestic or if it's overseas. It's certainly easier to communicate in our timeline, our time zone with domestic engineers. But at the end of the day, I just kind of got more and more taste of this impression of engineers are just generally difficult to work with. And so I had a couple stepping stones. I ultimately ended up at a company that manufactures building wire, copper and aluminum building wire for the construction industry. That was really my stepping stone ultimately into the construction space. But what I learned there, or what I appreciated there and was exposed to, was that a 1,700 employee, $3.5 billion company can function culturally like a group of college buddies sitting around a coffee table. The culture of, let's do business on a handshake. Let's pick up the phone when a client calls. Let's be super responsive. And even if we're offering a commoditized product or service, we can still have first-class customer service, first-class support, and we can differentiate ourselves in that way. So over my corporate career as a staff engineer, leading into the management of teams, leading into executive leadership positions, I started to pull together all these ideas and all these philosophies and all these business cultures of like, hey, I believe there's a lag in this market of, can we offer engineering services, third-party consultative engineering services, but can we do it in a way that feels like we're a customer service organization? And it was the start of COVID, and I was working from home. We all had a lot of time to think and reflect and figure out what we were trying to do with our lives. And it was at that point where it was a Holy Spirit realization, like, hey, what's my next challenge, right? Everything ties back to the challenge. What's the next challenge? The challenge is, can I start an engineering company and do it in a way that we bring communicative, relationship focused, real people, engineers together and offer a service that everybody needs. Everything is engineered. It doesn't matter if it's buildings, tennis shoes, macaroons, whatever. Everything is engineered in some capacity. So can we bring engineers together and can we be client facing and do it in a way that people enjoy working with engineers? And that was essentially how Ultimus was started and founded. And that's our culture today. It's not always easy to find engineers that fit that mold. But when we do, we snatch them up, we hang on, they embrace the culture. They get it, right? They already get it. But then to surround themselves with other people, and I'm not saying we fill our staff with a bunch of used car salesmen, but it's just the little extra intangibles that we can take those engineers and put them directly in front of clients that they eat up. And it's wonderful.
I was going to ask you, as you were describing that, so like, are you, the engineers that you're hiring, are you putting them through some type of a training program to help reinforce the culture, or you're looking specifically, and I imagine it's a little bit of both, that you're looking for engineers that are good technically, but they have a few quality traits that you look for that you found it being easier for them to transition into your culture?
It's mostly the latter. There are always opportunities for continuing education, for whether it be training or seminars or groups, but there has to be a starting point. We all have weaknesses. We all have strengths. I think that most classical leadership training education says that don't focus on making weaknesses strengths. We want to try to mitigate our exposure to weaknesses, but we don't want to try to fix something that is so far out of the realm of our comfort zone. We don't want to spend so much time on that it's philosophically changing who we are. Yeah. Somebody who hates talking to people, who cannot stand it, who barely even wants to work because they don't even like reporting to a manager, that's not the good fit for what we're trying to build. So when we bring someone on, we do want some of that intangibles. And I think most of us, let's say you meet someone on the street, you're waiting on a bus stop, you strike up a conversation with the person next to you, you know in the first 3 to 5 minutes whether or not you're going to try to sit next to that person and continue that conversation. And
Yeah.
if it's not, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We all have different ways we like to function. So when we're looking to bring engineers on, that first 3 to 5 minutes of that interview is very important, because if I don't see myself enjoying a conversation with that person, I know that our clients are also not going to enjoy that conversation. And that's not the culture we're trying to build. Now, are they going to be an international public speaking champion? That's probably not what I'm looking for,
Yeah.
but there needs to be some kind of intangible qualities that then we can build upon. And we do that in a kind of a couple unique ways. All of our engineers are set up with a compensation package where they receive commission based on any business development that they bring in. Most engineers don't have that, but the engineers that we bring in and the designers we bring in, they have that extra itch they're trying to scratch. They want to be in front of people. So I encourage them, hey, on your lunch break, if you want to go find a local networking group, it doesn't have to be construction or engineering specific. Make it an agnostic networking group. Go attend, meet some people, shake some hands. You never know when there's going to be an architect there or somebody who knows an architect. And if you spend your lunch break, I'll buy you lunch anyway, but if you spend your lunch break doing that and you bring in business that ultimately helps the company grow, shoot, I'll write you a check for that. You should be encouraged. But doing that forces them again to maybe get out a little bit of a comfort zone, practice their public speaking. Most of those networking groups have a 30-second to 60-second pitch you have to give.
Yep.
And just encourages honing those skills and interacting with people, kind of a brain ninja type way to do it. But it's ways that we can develop skills that are already there, but we do look for some of those intangible qualities up.
What was the genesis of the processes that you're putting in place and what you're doing to attract and retain those people that fit within that culture?
Good question. And it's been iterative. I wish there was an aha moment of this happened, we did this, it's worked perfectly. It hasn't. I've probably run off more recruiters than we've been able to maintain to help us with these searches, just because we have a very specific skill set we're looking for. And it's not just send me a resume of a licensed professional engineer. It's talk to them first. And if you wouldn't go get dinner with them after you interview them, like, don't send them to me. As far as a retainment aspect for employees, it's culture. It really is. That's everything that it comes down to. And so if we are very transparent in what we're looking for and what our expectations are, people either like that or they don't. I'm very transparent when I have interviews. I am not a micromanager. I am a hire good people and get out of their way kind of person. Obviously, I have to follow up and make sure deadlines are being met. But generally, if you've got your stuff handled, you're not going to hear from me. And it's not because I don't care. It's not because I don't want to know what you're doing. But if you need my help, ask me. If you don't and you want me to leave you alone, then I will. Because if you're crushing it, then you can do that. And one of the shifts, I think, in business culture, call it, over the last 5 years is generally everybody was in office. COVID happened, everybody went home. And now it seems like, hey, look, if you don't have a fully remote option, I'm not interested. Okay, that's fine, but you need to prove to me that you can work in a fully remote environment. The remote work environment is a benefit. It is not a guarantee. It's not something that is just given or handed out. Now, most of our employees are in a remote, largely environment. Starting a company and putting the pieces together in August of 2020 and forming in April of 2021, yes, we started remote. But the allowance for that is kind of on a short leash, and people know that going in. And if you're not getting stuff done because you're running to Target to get dog food or you're doing dishes, then, we just got to have a focused conversation about that. And there is a trade-off, right? If everybody's in the office 40 hours a week, you're going to waste time chit-chatting at the water cooler, going to the bathroom, you swing into someone's office, you got to stretch your legs. So I get it. No one's ever 100% efficient. We trade some of that for the Target runs, the dishes, the snack breaks, I'm going to take this phone call from the park. Great. We want that balance. Like, that's, a lot of people love that. But a lot of that is like trust is earned, not given, right? And I'm a fan of trust but verify. The good thing about the business that we're building is the people that we hire generally are licensed professional engineers. There is an extra level of expectation where the people that we're hiring have had 4 to 5 years minimum of experience. There's just a higher level of professionalism expected than maybe some other employees in different organizations or different organizational structures or just different industries. So we have less issues with that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I'm a cards on the table kind of guy. And I even ask people in initial interviews, hey, how do you like to be managed? Before I
Yeah.
spill my secrets, how do you like to be managed? And if somebody checks all the boxes and they prefer a very specific management style, I know that I'm okay to edit my leadership style to make sure that these people are successful. And if
Yeah.
these people like a weekly check-in, if they're like, please don't just leave me on an island, like I'm going to work hard, but also like say hi every once in a while, I can do that. And that's kind of one thing I've learned through my leadership journey is that yes, there are different leadership styles of how we lead, but there's different ways that people need to be led.
Yeah.
And as we bring on employees and as we grow our teams, that's something that I've really, really focused on is it's kind of that platinum rule, right? Platinum rule is treat others how they want to be treated.
Yep.
Same way for leadership. And so when we talk about retention and how do we get people excited and how we get people to stay on long term, all the money in the world isn't going to get someone to stay if they're not respected, listened to, feel like they're heard. So those are big things that we focus on, that I personally focus on is being intentional about how our teams are led.
Yeah, I think that's true in leadership as well as communication, being able to package communication in a way that the person you're communicating to, that they can actually receive it and do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all have our own preferences of communication, but it doesn't matter how I like to actually communicate and deliver if what I am delivering isn't hitting home with my audience or the team that I'm working with. So you've talked a lot about your overall journey and your overall approach. Tell us a little bit more about the types of projects that you're working on right now at Ultimus.
Sure. So we are a multidisciplinary firm. We cover three primary engineering disciplines within the construction community. So those are MEP engineering. So MEP stands for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, is relating to the design of the HVAC and climate control systems. That's effectively all the systems that go within a building. And we do commercial, we do residential, multifamily type work as well. But effectively, those are the building systems that allow a building to function. The second division is our aquatics division, where we design everything from koi ponds to water parks. It's the design of swimming pools, natatoriums, competition pools, leisure pools, community rec centers, lazy rivers, splash pads, all that kind of stuff. Basically, if it has water, we can help with it. And that's a cool blend between the bookends, the third discipline being structural engineering, where we design the foundation and framing systems of buildings.
Okay.
So the aquatics piece is a nice blend. Most commercial swimming pools is a concrete vessel that you fill with water. And then there's also the design of the plumbing systems, equipment selection, lighting design. So it's a nice blend of that electrical, plumbing, mechanical with the concrete shell that has the structural reinforcement that ties in the structural aspect of kind of that third pillar, if you will. And we diversify really well. At any given month, within plus or minus of 1% or 2%, those different divisions are equally represented across the projects that we take on. Some of those projects pull 2 of the 3 disciplines, some pull all 3, some of them are independently siloed. It really just depends on the size and scope of the project, what the client needs, where we got brought in during the process. But the ability to offer all 3 of those as a one-stop shop engineering solution is wonderful in certain situations. And in other situations, maybe the client wants to diversify their engineering risk. Great.
Yeah.
Love that. We would never expect to get all 3 engineering disciplines on a 70-story high-rise condo in the middle of downtown. It's not going to happen. Nor would I know that we would want that entire risk. But it's great to be able to offer that nice blend because we do serve a variety of clients. Some of them are the multinational architecture firms and some of the architecture firms that are 1 or 2 people working out of a garage or a bedroom, and they're focused on small franchise and retail remodels. So we have a nice blend, and we're able to allocate resources depending on the project and depending on the client need.
So when you think of the next 3 to 5 years, what do you see as the biggest headwind to your company's growth?
It's going to be finding those engineers that fit that culture. It's not easy. There's certainly a lot of engineers out there. If there's any licensed professional engineers listening to this podcast who are like, hey, I'm a good time, like call me, right? We'll talk about it. We could probably find a fit for you, which would be wonderful. There's enough people out there that we can find those roles. It'll be how do we do that efficiently as we continue to grow at the rates that we're growing? One thing that has helped with that is when I started the company, I didn't have a staff of full-time engineers. So I
Yeah.
relied on some 1099 contractors effectively who were licensed professional engineers in their own rights. They
Yeah.
have their own shop. They subcontracted through us. As we grew and as we're growing, we're bringing on more and more full-time staff. Well,
Mhm.
I've not kicked all those contractors to the curb. If anything, I've doubled down and relied on them even more because as our business ebbs and flows, and it's a stock market, right? It's up and down, mostly up. As we bring on more projects, well, I don't just bury our in-house staff or tell clients we can't help or raise prices or push lead times or anything like that. I'll go back and I'll call the contractors who have been with us since day one. And hey, Chris, I've got another project for you. Can you help me out in a pinch? Yeah, man,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm always going to take work from you. So having this really cool blend of both in-house staff and supplementary contractors has provided us that operational flexibility. So if we're in a period of time like we are right now, where we have more work than our in-house staff can handle, as we look to bring on more in-house talent, we get a little bit of a buffer where we're not just all pulling our hair out.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned something earlier, very briefly, almost in passing, but I want to make sure that we circle back to that. And I believe that you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you were thinking about starting your company, that it was a Holy Spirit moment.
But that's exactly what I said. Yeah, that's a huge part of everything that I do. A very wise, powerful, well spoken, well developed corporate executive once passed this on me. He said, look, I prioritize my day in 3 tiers: faith, family, and work. It does not
Yeah.
matter what comes up. If I prioritize my day in that order, everything will work itself out.
Yeah.
And from the day that he told me that, I was like, that's the guy I want to be. So that is a huge part of what I do. Um, I've got a 3.5-year-old and a 1-month-old at home. We pray over every meal.
Yeah.
My wife, she's a phenomenal cook. We were blessed to have the opportunity to retire her last February. And so she's been full-time mom, not retire, promote. I don't know, maybe make her life more crazy, especially with 2 boys. So, bless her. But she's a wonderful cook and she gets a shout out every meal, right? So we pray about it. Mama gets the shout out. And I want my boys to realize that because without that, that is the core of who we are.
Yeah.
I've got my bracelet here. I don't know if you can pick this up on the podcast, but it's kind of got 4 little symbols here. Jesus came to earth. He was crucified. He was buried. He raised, and he's coming back again. And that's what my little bracelet shows.
Yeah.
And so I wear this. This stays on me. It's a reminder. Some people have the cross necklace. Was given to me. This is probably my 3rd or 4th one of these. But that's a big part of what we do. And I don't necessarily require anybody that works for us to share those beliefs, but I'm not hiding behind it. It's on our website. If you go to our message map on our website, it's one of our top 5 core values, our faith. And so that is the backbone of what we do.
So as we think about this interview, I'm really grateful that you came on to share your story. What's kind of one thing that you would like the listeners to walk away with from this episode?
One of the things I was thinking about earlier that I was going to mention, and I talked about different leadership styles for different people. Keep in mind, if you're a leader listening to this, just because you haven't employed that philosophy in the past doesn't mean it's too late. Wake up tomorrow, have your aha moment, go into your staff and say, hey, we're always learning, we're always growing, we're always developing. As a leader, I want to be the best I can for you. Let's set aside some one-on-one time. Let's talk about this. If we need to reset priorities, if I can be a better leader for you, help me help you be better. And so don't think that it's ever too late to reset any relationship, good, bad, or indifferent. But yeah, that would be kind of a good takeaway. Maybe that doesn't apply to everybody, but that is just one thing I wanted to mention is that whether it's that specifically or any relationship that you have, it's never too late to start today. It's that goofy adage, right? When's the best time to plant a tree 50 years ago? When's the next best time? Today.
Today.
Go do it today. Don't wait. Don't wait anymore. You put it off for too long. Maybe you've never thought about it. Whatever it is, whether it be a conversation with a colleague, a subordinate, lead up. Go talk to your leader, your manager, your director, whoever. Say, hey, James, I've been thinking about a lot of things. I think I can be more effective in my job. If there's ways that I can be better, Would you be willing to listen to some of my ideas of maybe some additional things that you can help me with that will effectively make your job easier? Right. So
Yeah.
think about ways that we can lead up as well as leading down. And I think a lot of times people don't realize that helping your boss be better will effectively make your life a lot easier too.
Absolutely. It will. And so if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
We've got a number of different ways. We're relatively active on social media, mostly LinkedIn. So you can find us on LinkedIn, just Ultimus Engineering should come up. We've got a relatively unique name, pretty easy to find. Our website is available either at ultimus.engineering or ultimusengineering.com if that's more commonly accepted. We have a kind of a catch-all mailbox. It's just info at ultimusengineering.com. I personally manage that inbox if you want to get a hold of me there. Or feel free to give us a shout. Our phone number is listed on our website. We're always happy to call and chat. We love mentorship opportunities, coaching opportunities. We give presentations and we'll go to local charter schools and talk to a group of fifth graders about what does it mean to be an engineer. So if you're listening and you've got opportunities for us to get plugged in, we can't obviously entertain all requests for things like that, but we do like doing it. Our engineers like doing it too. So we're available on pretty much every social media and outlet that you can think of, but always we love a phone call too.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we'll include the relevant links in the show notes. As we get ready to wrap up the show, I like to do a mic flip moment where I will give you an opportunity to interview me. So you become the interviewer, you become the interviewer, I become the interviewee. And so what's one question that you have for me?
Yeah, well, James, I mean, you've interviewed more leaders and everything than most people I've ever met. So you ask about this, like, what's this nugget that people can take away? What is the best, or maybe pick one out of your top 10? What's one of the best pieces of advice that you've heard another leader, executive, business owner give prior that maybe we didn't cover today? I'm always looking for ways to grow and learn too. So maybe what's one of your favorite pieces of leadership advice that you've been given in the past?
That's a hard question. And we're probably going to have to go a few levels to get there.
Okay.
So no. And here's why I think it's hard, because I have so many conversations. I'm always thinking about content that we can develop to help leaders win at work and at home. Because for me, it's the whole thing that home and work don't compete, but they work together to provide the integrated life that you want. So I'm always consuming content. I'm always thinking about stuff. And so I would say the one that there's two that normally hit home. One is the one thing. I think it's Gary Keller's one thing. What's the one thing that you can focus on right now that's going to make the other things on your list either obsolete or easier to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think enough leaders think about how we can apply that to our day, to our week, to our situations that we're in. Is we have these lists of things that we need to do, but that one thing principle helps to sort things out and focus on what really matters. The other concept is the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. And, are you focusing on the 80% of things that are not going to move the needle, or the 20% of things that can significantly move the needle in the direction that you want to go?
I think those are wonderful. And I forget about the one thing myself. I've got the 80-20 principle on my bookshelf, but the one thing I've heard of that before. I've not read that book. It's on the to-do list, but that one thing is a good one thing. So
yeah,
it's a really good one.
Because it's not just what's the most important.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's the one thing, given all of the things that you're focusing on right now, what's the one thing that's going to move you closer to where you want to go in a way that it's going to make those other things on your list easier to do and to accomplish.
Perfect.
So you build momentum focusing on that one thing. You're making the other things a little bit easier. And for me, it's always been an eloquent way to kind of go through and look at how I'm prioritizing things.
Wonderful. Love it. Great answer.
Okay, Daniel. Again, thank you so much for your time and being on the show. It's been wonderful to spend some time with you.
It's been a pleasure. Looking forward to it. And if there's anything that we can do to help you or any of your other listeners, definitely reach out. Be happy to help.
Hi, this is Dr. James Bryant, the coach in your corner. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question that came up in my conversation with Daniel. What's the one thing that you could focus on right now that would make everything else on your to-do list easier or even obsolete? This comes from Gary Keller's book, The One Thing. When you identify and focus on that one crucial thing, it creates momentum, it clears the path. Everything else either becomes easier to handle or you realize it didn't need to be done in the first place. When you're being pulled in 1,000 different directions, this question cuts through the noise to help you move forward with intention so that you can win at work and at home. So, what's your one thing this week? I'm Dr. James Bryant, the coach in your corner. Be great this week.